Before you get into bed, my favorite thing to do, so legs up the wall, you just lie down on the floor and put your legs up the wall, and it
Hmm.
helps to decompress the nervous system. It helps to bring your energy down. It reverses the flow of blood, and it has a whole calming effect on your body. So you can set a timer for 5 minutes, put on a relaxing song, just
Hmm.
listen. And
Hmm.
then once you're in bed, anything in yoga that is a forward bend is going to help bring the nervous system more into a restful state of being. So, child's pose, which is just getting on your knees and curling up into a little ball, you can do that in your bed for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just a forward bend, stretching over your legs. And you can prop yourself up on pillows. You're not thinking about how this pose looks. Like, is it photo
Right.
worthy? It's really like, how does it feel? Where do I feel tension in my physical body? Be curious and explore. And then just breathing as slowly and deeply as you can to help some of the physical tension release.
Welcome to I Think I Can podcast. My name is Luella Young. I am a woman who believes that we, like wine, get better with age. Age brings us wisdom, intuition, and a level of sophistication that is beyond the reach of youth. I am here to tell you that living a luxuriously rich and fulfilling life is in your reach. I Think I Can podcast will teach you to think differently in order to get different results. Allow me to show you how to do life effortlessly. This podcast is for the woman who is tired of playing by the rules of society, community, religion, parents, and partners. I Think I Can is all about becoming brave, authentic, purposeful, and strong. Listen weekly, and you will find yourself living a life you could have only once dreamed of. Thoughts drive our physiology. So channel your thoughts with me into a life truly worth living. Enjoy the show. Welcome to episode 24 of I Think I Can podcast. Today I have with me Roberta Hughes. Roberta is the founder and lead instructor at PeaceFull Living, a boutique hybrid studio that conveys a delicate and personalized peaceful living instruction through customized Pilates, meditation, and yoga classes. And what I really liked about today's interview with Roberta is how she described, simply checking in with ourselves throughout the day can allow us to check the thoughts that drive feelings, which can sometimes cause us anxiety or unwanted energy. And I mean, we often hear about how slowing the mind can allow us to speed up in life. So, becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings throughout the day can be a very powerful method of transforming your life. Roberta provides great tips as it relates to managing real time stress moments, as well as how to both fall asleep and remain asleep so as not to be hijacked by thoughts during your sleep. She also describes the similarities and differences between Pilates and yoga. And with that, let's begin the show. So, welcome, Roberta. It's so nice to have you here today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
And just to let our listeners know, Roberta is from Denver, Colorado, and there can't be much more of a Zen place than that. I think. Did you always live in Denver?
I haven't. I actually grew up in Arizona, a very small
Mm.
town called Sierra Vista, and I consider that my home state. I moved there at the age of 5 and lived there through college. And I
Mm.
left Arizona for the first time in 1998. And from there, I had married someone that was in the Air Force, and we
Mm.
lived in California, Montana, back to California, and then we made our way to Denver in 2005, and I've been here ever since.
So what drew you to Denver then? I'm always curious about different
My
locations.
ex-husband's job, so we moved here for
Mm.
the Air Force, and my children, my youngest was 2.5, my oldest was 5.5, or no, 7.5, gosh, when we moved here. And so this is their home state. It's the only state they really remember.
Mm.
My oldest remembers a little bit about California, but they've done all of their schooling here, and for them it's home. So for me, it's home now too.
Nice. Okay. Okay. No, it's I've only been skiing in I'm trying to think. What's the well-known ski resort
We have
in
Vail, we have Aspen, and
Yes.
then we have lots of smaller resorts
Yes.
that are,
Yes, it was Vail. It was Vail during my university years, and that was
yes.
great memories. So, okay, well, where to begin? I mean, there's so much I'd love to discuss with you today, but I just thought I'd, sort of describe my journey with yoga a little bit and sort of, where I'm where I struggle a little bit with yoga. And I was well, I feel like the best way to describe myself is a doer, right? It's always, do, and that productivity sort of mindset. Like if I'm not doing something, I'm wasting my time. And, bless my parents' hearts. They were very hard workers. And so that's what I grew up with. Like if you're not doing something, you're wasting your time. But you know, I was drawn towards yoga years ago because I was mainly a runner, and I just knew that I needed to, stretch out my body, and it would make me a better runner and gain flexibility. But I have to admit that, the Shavasana at the end of the class was a real struggle for me. And I want you to explain, in case anybody that hasn't done a yoga class, what Shavasana is. But I mean, as you know, I would be the type of person laying there going, oh my gosh, like, can we just leave now? So maybe just describe, to the listeners what Shavasana is and why, it would make sense that I was struggling with it at the end of class.
Sure. And I might also point out that this will be helpful for you to understand the purpose of Shavasana since you are a doer. If you
Mm-hmm.
understand that there's a purpose connected to the actual action, that
Mm-hmm.
might be helpful for your brain. So, Shavasana is our final resting pose in yoga, and you really just lie down, and the purpose is to allow your body to absorb the physical benefits of your practice.
Mm.
And because our bodies are in motion and are in action most of the day, they need to have that energy restored. If you look at things from a yin and a yang perspective, yang is that doing, that movement, always on
Mm-hmm.
the go. The yin is the body's need to restore and replenish that wellspring of energy that you use to be a doer.
Mm. So it's bringing the body back to balance is what you're.
Not necessarily back to balance. It's almost like filling up the well again. So then
Mm.
you can get up and take that energy back out into the world. If your well gets empty, you will be injured, you will be sick, you will be stressed, you will
Mm-hmm.
not be able to function. So people who
Mm-hmm.
are doers tend to expend a lot of energy. They also need to restore it.
Mm-hmm. See, that makes sense to me as well because, like, in a sense, I felt yoga is not doing. I mean, it is doing. It is. The stretches are doing, but because you remain, on a small space on your mat,
Mhm.
again, like to me, I'm guessing I needed to really get over that idea that just because I'm not running around the room or, like increasing my well, I've done hot yoga and it definitely increases your heart rate. But just holding a pose is that yang, is what you're saying.
Yes, and how much exposure to yin and yang do you have within a day?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a runner, if you're actively employed, you're working, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're a mother or a parent,
Mm-hmm.
all of the roles in life, we're in that yang energy most of the time.
Right.
To dip into the yin on purpose allows you to restore, rejuvenate, nourish, and nurture. As
Mm.
children, we have our parents to fulfill that role, right? They nourish us, they nurture us, they make sure all of our needs are met so that we can go to school, study, get good grades. But who does that for us when we become adults?
Mm. Good, good point, and especially with women,
Yes.
because we're a nurturer, we're a caregiver. So
And
I
we
can
tend to then start doing it for others, but then we forget to do it for ourselves. And that's when we
exactly.
become depleted. And sometimes we'll become bitter, sometimes we'll become unable to perform anymore because we're run down and worn out.
Hmm. Have you experienced like so? How did you come to yoga then? Is this something that you experienced in your life that and with that upon that realization that I wasn't nurturing my body enough, is that how you entered it, or was it just more like haphazardly, like, oh, this looks interesting?
So I stumbled into yoga by accident in college as a one credit course when I was 19 years old. And I just remember always feeling wonderful at the end of the class.
Mm-hmm.
And we did study it. We studied the names. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot to learn. But I still just remember leaving that class and feeling so focused and ready for my next class.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I became a young mother, like I said, I moved away from Arizona for the first time in 1998. I had just had my first baby. I was 25 years old, and all of a sudden I was all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And my relationship with my mother has always been so close. She knows how to nurture me without me even ever having to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Being on my own, it was more survival. How can I restore those feelings that I got from being with my mom, from being at home, from being cared for when I was the only one in charge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Like, you're responsible now for
Yes.
your feelings, for your mind, for everything. You're right. Yeah.
And now I have this 6-week-old baby
Hmm.
that I'm also responsible for. And if I'm worn out and not taking care of myself, how will I take care of him?
Hmm. Yeah. So how did you all figure that out then?
Trial and error.
Okay.
I continue to be curious about yoga, and I really used yoga to recover from my delivery. My body felt worn out, tired, exhausted. I had always been really flexible, and suddenly everything was tight and tense and
Mm.
wound up like a knot. So that was a learning experience for me, and I just moved through it slowly and figured out what made things feel better, what made things feel worse, and
Hmm.
one step
Interesting.
forward at a time.
So what you're saying then is that you fortunately had that like seed planted early in your life about what my body feels like
Hmm.
when it is rejuvenated, when it is in that place of calm,
Hmm.
which, others may not find until they're, yeah, 50 or 60 or something like that. You don't know what you don't know, is what I always say. So
Correct.
why would you be drawn towards that if you had never really experienced that? And I'm guessing, and then when you make it sort of a pattern behavior of always doing, 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 like someone like myself, it's the older you get, the more you behave in that way, it would make sense that crossing that line and moving towards more of the yin would be very difficult because you're always resisting. It's like a battle. It's a battle of the mind just as much as it is a battle of the body.
It
Um,
is. And, most of us are not comfortable with stillness and quiet. But
mm-hmm,
if we look at stillness and quiet as an opportunity of discovery, of
mm-hmm,
curiosity, an opportunity to create self awareness where you may not have had self awareness in your life. I
mm-hmm,
see clients at the age of 50 who have very little self awareness. They just know that they hurt or something doesn't feel good, but to take the time to dive in and see, well, where is that coming from? Can I be curious about it? Can I explore it at a deeper level rather than just pain? Is it pain or is it discomfort? Is it resistance? And
mm-hmm,
sometimes the mind becomes more resistant when we become physically resistant. So, yin yoga and yoga for me have become this opportunity to explore all of those relationships with curiosity. What is
mm-hmm,
my relationship to resistance? How do I feel? What emotions come up? What physical experiences rise up with resistance? And you
mm-hmm.
can apply that to anything that you're curious about, learning more for yourself or wanting to change in your life.
Mm. I like the way that you're really connecting the body and the mind, you
Hmm.
know. And yeah, I think it's very sad in some ways that I think, you're saying that a 50-year-old can move through this as well. But I think most, again, if you don't know what you don't know, and mainstream, let's say media, or perhaps, your own group of friends are all saying, yeah, when I get up in the morning, oh my gosh, my knees, oh yeah, I know. And my doctor says, it's, you're getting old. Like,
Like it's your life sentence, right?
y-
Like
yeah. But it doesn't have to be that way,
it
is what you're telling
doesn't.
me.
No, I'm 48 and I have had a movement practice most of my life. And I specifically do yoga and Pilates and meditation for longevity at this point. I want to feel the same when I'm 60 and 70 when I wake up in the morning. And I know it's going to alter. I too feel things shifting and changing, but then I become curious. Okay, if my knees are aching, what's creating that ache? And is there anything within my ability that I can do to support it, to help it, to make it function at its optimal level? And as we age, we have to start to shift our perspective of optimal because it
Mm,
does change. If we have the expectation that our 60-year-old body is going to feel and perform like our 30-year-old body, that's going to create suffering because
mm-hmm,
in our 30s, our bodies are full of juice and hydration and life. We're optimal at that age. Things start to dry up as we get older, and that's just a fact. We
mm-hmm,
have to work to keep our joints lubricated. We have to work to keep our muscles flexible and pliable. We have to work to keep ourselves nourished and hydrated for the purpose of having healthy movement and longevity and to feel good each day.
mm-hmm. So again, just as we need to do with the mind, we need to quiet the mind every single day and nurture it.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, it reminds me of my. I went through a period of about, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so, where I went to yoga, but it was Bikram yoga, and I went to it religiously. Like, I almost feel like I became somewhat addicted to it, for quite a few years, and then I think because of the intensity and the amount of time that yoga practice took. I mean, that's a 90-minute practice, and that doesn't count driving to and from, and the fact that you're drenched in sweat afterwards, and that whole deal. And like, I just came to a point, well, I can't keep this up. This is crazy. It makes me feel great, but it's not. I just don't have the time. And so, and then I gave it up completely again, which is just not good. I did, so there's something that, you speak about on your website that talks about 5-minute Zen breaks, which um, I think sounds, again, something doable. This sort of is speaking towards what you just talked about. It's like connecting yourself, making it a practice, making it easy, and making it daily. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I will. I would love to go back and speak, though, to your Bikram experience because Bikram was one of my first experiences outside of college with yoga. And I bought his book. I self-taught myself his whole sequence. And so when I was a mom, when we moved from California to Montana, my son was about 4 months old. And whenever my husband had a day off, I would go to the wellness center and go into the sauna or the steam room, and I would do my Bikram practice. And it was like this
Wow.
huge treat for me to get that time away, but it was like 90 minutes. Oh my gosh, this is such a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But then, we moved back to California. I now have two children. If I wanted to go to a Bikram class, I could drive 45 minutes to class. So I might have done it once every 3 months. And it really was my mom's day out, my treat, my
Yeah.
time just for me. And that's what I wanted to do. So then I looked at how can I bring those moments of peace into my everyday life, and not feel like I have to remove myself from the things that call my attention and the things that I want to give my attention to. And
Mm-hmm.
this is everybody, right? We all have things that call our attention and things that we want to give our attention to.
Mm-hmm.
If we also have the desire to add something new in, like a yoga practice, if we look at it as this all or nothing experience, it's going to be more like a spa day. You'll schedule it occasionally, or it's going to be that addiction. Like you're going to give everything you can to it, but other things will fall off,
Yeah.
the wheel because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do all of the things at 150%.
No.
So, a Zen break is a short meditation. I actually have ones that are as short as 2 minutes up to 5 minutes long. And these really came from throughout my life noticing, okay, my kids fell asleep in the car. I'm in a park. I'm going to sit here for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to be in the quiet. I would try to find a place in nature and just make that time to reconnect to myself. And then back to the next thing, back to my children, back to whatever was needing my attention.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. No, I mean, it just sounds like it's been, such a big part of your life to this point. And I mean, it shows. Like if, all my episodes are uploaded, onto my YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to watch and look what Roberta looks like, I never want to say she doesn't look her age, because age is just a number, but I mean, you look so youthful. Your skin looks wonderful. And I mean, obviously, like, I mean, you're an example of what you practice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel that way too. And I also have to give credit to my genes. My father is African American and my mother is Serbian.
Okay.
But they both, taught me to wear sunscreen all of the time, to drink
Mm,
water all of the time, to eat healthy meals before I went to school or before I went to cheerleading practice. And I think those three things done consistently throughout my whole life
mm,
have also helped. And then to learn how to nourish myself and not to let stress run the show in my life has
hmm.
kept my body and my mind in balance.
So, how does a person then, like, I mean, because I think people struggle with this, the whole idea of slowing down, and yet furthering yourself in life. Because we're all taught to, you got to work hard to achieve what you want, you know, um, that entrepreneurship, for example, or climbing up the corporate ladder, um, everybody now, is wearing, I mean, I think it's gotten better, but it's almost a badge of honor to say that, oh, I function on 5 hours a night. Like for the longest time, I remember as a mom of young children, I have three children. Like I know that I was living off of 5 hours of sleep and sometimes four and a half. I remember there was a period where it was four and a half, and it would be like, I'm fine. I'm good. This is all I need. Um, well, I'm proud of myself in the last couple of years. Like I'm really trying to get 7 hours of sleep. But no, I was convinced that I was just one of those people that could do it, do life on 5 hours of sleep. But I think I was telling myself a lie. What do you think?
My question would be, do you remember what you felt like when you were only getting 5 hours?
Well, I think I know, with my work in functional medicine as well, I know 100% that I was living off adrenaline. I was
Mm-hmm.
just, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my cortisol levels must have just been, way up there.
Yes.
I never really, I wouldn't say that I felt burnt out, like, because I was, I think it's a little bit like, those with ADHD, or, I always say like the mind of a surgeon. I mean, they live off of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So
But
you're bringing up some really exciting things. One of them, the adrenaline and the cortisol levels. I love the phrase wired and tired because
mhm,
that's what you're describing. People who are type A, who are on the go, who are only getting a little bit of sleep, they're wired. That adrenaline is their source of energy, their source
mhm,
of being alive, their source of doing all of the things. Where it starts to fall apart is focus. How focused are you? Are
mm,
you forgetting things? Are you missing deadlines? Are you forgetting
mm,
appointments or scheduling things incorrectly, which then creates more of that feeding of the energy of being wired and tired because now
mhm,
it's like, oh, I missed that. I missed that. I need to get
mm,
back on track. So by slowing down and nurturing your ability to focus and to be connected to the things that you're doing, not just in motion of doing them, but to be connected to the things that you're doing,
mhm,
you'll have a greater purpose, you'll have a greater presence, you'll have a greater impact in those
mhm,
areas of your life.
mhm. No, it makes sense. I think what I think you just described, those years. I would say, especially like probably from about 35 to, maybe about 48 or so, that I think I was just like a robot. I just like, I'm because like I'll say my memory's horrible of, years past. And yeah, and that's explains exactly why, because I was never really in the present. Um,
And even with all of the work that I do, I can look back on those younger parenting years.
mm,
And I know I was busy, but I can't really tell you what I did in a day. Like the
yeah.
memory of that, it's like you are performing, you are active. And
Mhm.
even with me nourishing and nurturing myself along the way, I still have memory loss about that time. I think you have to forget it to move on from it.
True. Well, it's good to hear you say that,
Yeah,
because yeah, it's yeah, because shan't ever judge ourselves.
not at all.
No, no.
And all of this is normal. As human beings, we experience life in a really exciting way. And the
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I wanted to point to was the nervous system. So what you're describing with a surgeon, they are always on. They are always on alert. Their nervous system is always ready to spring into action or anticipate the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
When they're not on duty, how are they regulating their nervous
Mm,
system and bringing their nervous system in a place of restoration,
mm,
restorative, that rest and digest? You know, you need to be able to drop into that space to
mm,
have the ability to function for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm sure it would be extremely challenging, right? It's sort of like to like because the two are such a dichotomy. Like you would really have to, step into your home or drive away from, the hospital or your workplace and just say, now I'm becoming a different person. Like it would have to be very deliberate. Don't you feel like that?
I don't want you to think of having to separate. So I would rather say, okay, I'm leaving work. What tools am I going to use now to support my ability to rest? And we talked a little bit earlier about sleep. Getting
Mm-hmm.
8 hours of sleep, maybe that's your goal. How am I going to work my life to get good rest? If not every single night, maybe you're going to start with 1 or 2 nights and
Mm-hmm.
really work towards that goal of creating 8 hours of rest for your body and creating a bedtime routine, bringing your
Mm-hmm.
body into states of rest. So maybe you're not taking up yoga or taking up meditation right away. Maybe it's really just focused on bedtime. I'm going to create a bedtime routine. I'm going to start learning how to decompress my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to dim the lights. I'm going to put my cell phone away. Whatever it is that you want to bring into that routine to tell your brain, okay, it's time to let go of all of the other things that can take
Mm-hmm.
up my attention and to
Mm-hmm.
really just be here for me. What would
Mm-hmm.
that look like? And different people are going to want to bring different things into that routine.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
brings you comfort? What brings you that feeling of nurturing and nourishing?
Would there be we're speaking about the mind. Is there anything with the physical body that you would suggest? Like if they're not getting on their mat, let's say before crawling into bed. I mean, is there something while in is there certain poses? Is there something like a relaxation practice that they might do?
Yeah, there are many. So I love that you asked this question. Before you get into bed, my favorite thing to do, especially for someone like you that's a doer and a runner,
Mhm.
is
Oh,
legs
I
up the
don't run
wall.
anymore.
Oh, you
No,
don't
no,
run
no, no, no,
anymore?
no, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, we can say that you were a runner, so you're
Yes,
always a runner, but you're probably still a doer.
definitely.
So legs up the wall, you just lie down on the floor and put your legs up the wall, and it
Mm,
helps to decompress the nervous system. It helps to bring your energy down. It reverses the flow of blood, and it has a whole calming effect on your body. So you can set a timer for 5 minutes, put on a relaxing song, just
mm,
listen. And
mm,
then once you're in bed, anything in yoga that is a forward bend is going to help bring the nervous system more into a restful state of being. So, child's pose, which is just getting on your knees and curling up into a little ball, you can do that in your bed for a few minutes.
mhm.
Just a forward bend, stretching over your legs. And you can prop yourself up on pillows. You're not thinking about how this pose looks. Like, is it photo
Right.
worthy? It's really like, how does it feel? Where do I feel tension in my physical body? Be curious and explore. And then just breathing as slowly and deeply as you can to help some of the physical tension release. I
Mm,
have a guided sleep meditation that I created that will actually take you through a whole visualization practice
mm,
through your whole entire body, from your head to your toes. And that gives the brain something to do because you're bringing attention and awareness and focus to each part. And
mm.
when your brain is focused on one thing, it's not able to think about all of the other things.
No, I like that. Now, I often like I when I speak to women as well, the majority tell me, I mean, I find it's the younger generation that have trouble shutting off their minds before they fall asleep. But usually, you know, especially young moms. I mean, that was me too. That was exhausted, right? As soon as my head hit the pillow, I was gone. But so I don't feel as many people struggle falling asleep as they do waking up during the night. So what are is it sort of the same suggestion that maybe you can, have earbuds or AirPods or something like that and listen to that guided meditation?
Yes, you could listen to the guided meditation. You could also take a reprieve from your bed and go do legs up the wall. Studies have shown that by actually getting out of bed and not laying there and fighting all of the thoughts in your head
Mm,
kind of creates a little interruption for the brain. So going and doing something outside of the bed for 5 minutes and then coming back, putting in the AirPods, it's like you're beginning again, right?
mm,
The longer you lay there and struggle with your thoughts and trying to stop thinking, the more active the brain is going to become. And so it
right,
really feeds
right,
that cycle of thinking.
right, right. Yeah. Because you're telling yeah, whatever you put your attention towards becomes, yeah, your reality. So that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Where our attention goes, energy flows.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So, what are like maybe just get into a little bit more of, where would people start? Like, where would people start if they're, if the, like what you described so far is just like, it makes me want to, I know, take care of my body more throughout the day. So what do you suggest?
I suggest figuring out where in your day you would want to create a routine that is specifically dedicated to nourishing and nurturing your state of mind and well being for
Okay.
your body. So we can ask you, like, what time of day would that work best for you?
Okay, so we're speaking of one time of the day.
Yeah.
Like, okay, good, good. Because if you made me think of many different times a day, I think I'd have a trouble with. But no, my basic thing that I do right now, the only thing I really, well, I take a walk every evening. I walk my dog, and I find that helps me flush out my mind. It's therapeutic, and it gets me out in nature, which is wonderful. Um, but then the only other thing that I do before bed is getting out my roller, and I just roll my back over that roller, and like just that's it, like sort of lower back, just massaging it a little bit, like maybe 2 minutes of that is all I do. um so I think I could do more. I think I could
Okay.
stretch it out to 5 minutes and do something else.
Sure. So maybe you're rolling is the beginning now of your bedtime routine, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to roll for 2 minutes, maybe add legs up the wall
Mm-hmm.
for 2 to 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then do a short meditation, something to reset your mind.
Mm.
I've had clients tell me that they'll listen to my meditations when they're brushing their teeth, when they're washing their face, and that just kind of brings their mind into a place of relaxation. So then when
Mm-hmm.
they get into bed, they're less busy in their minds. And that's how they use the meditation. So you don't have to carve out time to add into a busy schedule. You can bring it into things that you're already doing. So you
One.
could even listen to a meditation on your walk or be really
Mm.
interested in nature on your walk, getting connected to nature and letting go of
Mm-hmm.
distractions. Those
Mm-hmm.
are things that I would recommend for you. How can you nourish and feed what you're already doing to enhance it and make it into a routine that supports your ability to rest and restore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm also like, I call myself a bit of a serial learner as well. Like, I mean, I'm always trying to take in information. So I
Hmm.
will, use my walks to listen to podcasts
Yeah.
or whatever. And I think it's, again, it's, I need to just be, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because even if you're listening to podcasts, you're probably listening from a place of doing. You know,
learning. Yeah,
you're learning or you're maybe I don't know if you do this, but I'm a teacher too. And when I'm learning something, I'm also thinking about how am I going to teach it? How am I going to share it? Who would this
absolutely.
be good for? So you're not really taking care of yourself in that
No,
moment, right?
no.
And I would really think that you would love one of my yin yoga classes because even though there's a lot of stillness, there is a lot of learning and curiosity about your own physical and emotional and mental experience. So
Mm,
your brain has a lot to be interested in and a lot to do. And you'll get to kind of make friends with your mind and learn, like, oh, my mind likes to go here and there and do this and that. And okay, I acknowledge and see that, but I'm going to come back to my breath. I'm going to come back to
mm,
exploring the sensation. So
mm.
it can become playful and purposeful and fun. It doesn't have to just be, I'm in Shavasana and it's quiet and silent and I can't wait for this to be over.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Planning, my grocery list and God knows what else I was doing. But you mentioned something there that I'm glad you brought. You said, go back to the breath. Now
Mhm.
that's something like my morning practice is more or less just sitting in a chair and letting my mind wander and be creative. And I'm really loving that a lot. Um, but should I also be thinking about my breath? Because like I have this question too, like, it's like, oh, I know the shoulds are not good, but I'm catching myself going, I should be focusing on the breath. I should be inhaling deeper. I should be exhaling through the nose. Like, does any of that really matter?
My question to you would be why? Like, why would you want to do that? Finding the time to just sit and be in creativity, I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And you
Mm-hmm.
probably get a lot of joy and nourishment from that
Mm.
experience.
I love it.
Keep it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're curious about breathing practices and how the breath could enhance a state of rest, for example,
Mm-hmm.
explore that.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a certain breath pattern be applicable? And I really love the breath, but I think we get too caught up into it. So again, there needs to be a purpose. If rest is your purpose at night, when the mind is thinking about all of the other things, the breath can be an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
If you can feel the inhale, if you can feel the exhale, if you can be curious about the pauses in between those moments of
Mm-hmm.
breathlessness, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot to be interested in so the mind can rest from all of its thinking. So that would be a
Okay.
why.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That the connecting to the breath is just allowing the mind to calm
hmm
down.
It's like not there, here.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's like
Yeah. So,
redirecting tiny humans. You were a mother of children and you
mm-hmm.
remember those toddler stages, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, not that. Try this. Let's do
mm-hmm.
this, not that. It's the same with your mind. I use all of my parenting skills in training my mind and its ability to focus and be.
Okay. So let's get into that a little bit. I'm curious of how your practice and um your I guess your career, like how did you manage that through COVID? Were you more of a brick and mortar business or establishment prior to COVID and now COVID has made your practice change, or how was it for you?
I've always been an independent instructor teaching in a variety of places, anywhere from Air Force gyms
Mm.
to fitness centers to small studios. And it was great throughout my life to be able to travel and just wherever I could find a place to teach, I would teach. And prior to COVID, I had actually opened my first little boutique yoga center, and it was very tiny and it felt like a spa, like a retreat center. Only
Mm.
3 people could be there at a time, and
Oh.
it was only 3 months open when COVID struck.
Oh.
So that was a little bit of a blow. But then during COVID, when we were in quarantine, and I realized quarantine was going to last longer than any of us anticipated at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been teaching much yoga prior to that time. I was mostly teaching Pilates. And I kept feeling this calling back to yoga. So I got on Facebook Live 3 times a week and taught a yoga class free of charge to whoever showed up. And people from all over the world, different time zones, started to show up. And it became this great little community. Quite a few of the women that joined in were mothers of my friends. So I had my
Mm,
mom on and mothers of friends, most of them in their 70s who had never done yoga before. And you would think that through a screen we couldn't make connection, but
mm,
it just really did feel like this nurturing, supportive community. And I started getting messages like, my knees feel so much better. I never thought I would be able to do this with my body. And that's really where peaceful living as it exists today came to be, as
mm.
using this virtual content, video content as a support in your life, in your busy life, where you don't have to carve out 90 minutes to go to a class and
Exactly.
then have to be sweaty and you still need a shower. So now 3 hours out of your day have
Right.
been taken up by your movement practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. It's so I guess I mean, and that must have been scary for you going on Facebook Live, right? I have a feeling that you wouldn't have been comfortable with that.
I was not. I was awkward and technology was not my friend. Some days I
Hmm.
would be ready to go live and Facebook changed something and I couldn't get on. So I went through all of the stress trying
Mm.
to show up as a volunteer to teach this one yoga class. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 11 a.m. But I made friends with technology through the process. I learned how to be an AV specialist to the best of my ability. I now have great audio equipment that I use to record my guided meditations. I have learned to become resilient and forgiving of myself because no matter how well prepared you come, you never know what life is going to throw at you. And that is in all things that we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so you don't have the boutique anymore.
I don't. I haven't
No.
gone back. So I
Yeah.
teach about 50% of my clients through Zoom still because a lot of them are working from home on Zoom calls and we'll carve out 30 minutes between their calls and do Pilates or yoga or meditation. And then I still teach a live stream class 3 times a week. And then I love to customize programs for people and help them create the tools that are going to work to enhance their ability to nourish and nurture themselves.
So what would that look like then? Like a customized program? Like how do you create that? Do in the first call with them you might say, you might do a bit of an assessment or how what does that look like?
It's really interview style.
Mhm.
What are you looking for in your life? And for example, you were talking about a bedtime routine. So
Mhm.
once we narrow it down to let's create a bedtime routine that's going to be valuable, what tools are going to fit into that toolbox and into your life?
Mhm.
And I will plug in a couple of my videos that I think will be useful
Mm.
for those times when you want to explore a little bit more, maybe try a yin yoga class, see what it's all about. And then you come back to me and you say, this is working well, this doesn't really fit me. It's kind of like trying clothes on in the fitting room.
Mhm.
It can be overwhelming to try to create this for yourself if you don't have the skill set. You can just take in all of this information and try all of these things and feel even more stressed out. So I like
Well,
to take that stress away from people.
it makes so much sense. I mean, I'm always trying to promote individuality, in people and to remind them that they're exactly where they need to be right now
Hmm.
in life in order to, sort of shed guilt and what have you, all those things that keep us stuck. And because I can, I mean, I like what you're saying because otherwise, I can see it like, so yeah, you're 48 and, you're kind of running around in this corporate world and managing teenagers and, then your friend says, hey, I think you'd really love my yoga class. Would you like to join me tonight? And you carve that hour out of your day or maybe more, an hour and a half, depending where the studio is, etc. And you like it, but you don't join her two other times that week, or even make it once a week practice, because you just can't keep that up, and then you feel guilty, and then all the I should be doing this, I should be making more time. But what you're describing is wonderful. It's sort of like them coming to you saying, this is my life, this is my template. um what can you do for me? And
Hmm.
starting at baby steps, I'm guessing.
Yeah, baby steps. And one thing that I'd like to speak to is that individuality, because
Mm,
not every person is the same. And say you did go to that yoga class with your friend and you have a knee injury and you don't know how to take care of it.
mm,
You could leave feeling worse than you went, and then you have this idea, well, yoga's bad. It hurt my
right.
knee.
Mm,
So, what I help people do is become more confident in being able to take care of their needs. So, if you tell me your goal is to be able to go to yoga once a week and you want to find a studio, I'm going to teach you what to look for, how to take care of yourself. What does your body need? And you would have that ability when you're on your own. One of the clients that I've been working with for, gosh, almost 5 years now, he's in his 60s and he travels quite a bit. And he
mm,
just came back from a vacation where they had Pilates equipment at the fitness center near his hotel. And he was able to go and do a whole practice all by himself because he has learned so much and he was confident enough in his body. And he has, things that he needs to learn how to take care of: shoulder, low back, hip, all of the
mhm.
things. And he walked into his session yesterday looking like a new man. Like he felt good in his body, and the confidence that he gained through that self-guided practice was phenomenal. And that was the
Wonderful.
biggest reward for me as a teacher.
No kidding. Now you're reminding me, like, see, like, that's what I mean. My memory's awful, but I did try the I did try the Pilates. I did make an effort, but again, it was another thing I had to do right during the
Hmm.
day, and it was like took effort. And I mean, that's honestly why I loved running so much. Is sort of put my runners on, you know, um, back home by 7 a.m., have my whole day free, life's easy. And
Yeah.
um, but this effort to go to a Pilates studio, for example, I mean, how do you do that like online? Because people don't have
Yeah. The
those
Pilates
machines.
mat work is the best workout, and you being a doer, you would love it. So
Mm,
my Monday Pilates mat class, it's a live stream class, and it's 30 minutes long, and it is tough.
okay.
It is tough. So sometimes we're only moving for 20 minutes because we'll do a little check-in at the beginning, a little check-in at the end. But then those videos get posted onto the PeaceFull Living library, and you can do them at your leisure. So sometimes a student will sign up for class knowing that they're not able to make it, but then they have access to the live stream forevermore. So if you want to do that class, that one class every single day, and become familiar with it and comfortable with it, you can do that. And when we're adding new things, familiarity is so important, because
Mm,
if you keep changing things up, the brain is restarting and that frustration level can become higher.
mm-hmm.
And you probably, with your background, really understand that.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of resistance towards that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
the more familiarity you can have, the more of a routine, then it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And that's why you loved running. All you had to do was put on your shoes and go,
Yeah.
right? So to be
Yeah.
able to create that in something else that you're trying to add is what is probably going to be your hook for
Mhm.
longevity.
Mhm. Those good routines, those good routines that bring us to that um the path of least resistance is what I'm thinking of.
Where you don't
It's
even have to think about it anymore. It's
no.
just part of what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I know I'll have to leave you go here soon, but the Pilates, can you just remind me, or if other people out there, so the yoga would be mind, body, flexibility, stretching, and I always saw Pilates as working on the core. Is
Hmm.
that? True?
They both are mind-body practices. The
Okay.
biggest difference with Pilates is the level of concentration. You are
Mm,
really concentrating on how your body is executing movement. So we
mm,
use centering, concentration, and control as a foundation in our Pilates practice. And then we layer in other things on top of that. So for type A people, for doers, Pilates is a great way because the mind is really focused and interested on the movement, the articulation of the movement, the execution of the movement. There's a lot to do and think about.
mm.
Yoga is a little more loose and flowery, if you will. It's
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
let's just move and breathe and try to be in this place of being and stretching, which for type A people can create a lot of frustration.
Yeah, but I think now that I'm older and wiser, I mean, and I know the why behind it, I think I
Hmm.
would be much more dedicated to it. And the whole idea, we didn't speak about this very much, but the whole idea of posture,
Hmm.
um, body language is again really a mirror of ourselves, like inward, right? It teaches us a lot about what's inside, in terms of how we show up in the world, what our posture is like.
Hmm.
And, the practices that you're talking about, again, uh, everything is, everything in the world is about alignment, right? Alignment
Yeah.
of your physical body, but alignment, of your mind towards, what you want, what you should be focusing your thoughts towards. Like throughout my years of practice, you- I realize more and more that we do have. I mean, well, I know it's not. I only I we have a choice. What we focus our thoughts on, what we bring into our awareness, the power of awareness, and just having the body aligned physically and mentally is really removing all resistance,
Hmm.
in terms of moving forward.
Yeah, and when you talk about posture, each month I have a theme that I focus on. And for April, we are looking at confidence and faith. And so everything that I'm doing in my yoga classes is heart opening because we do
Mm,
so much forward folding in our day. The heart really becomes concave, and
mm-hmm,
we're physically suppressing our ability to emote when we're caving into that heart center. So, as we become able to open physically, that level of
mm-hmm.
confidence can thrive. We can have more faith. We can have more confidence in all of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm. It like honestly, it's when you become more aware of, your thoughts and your body, it's because I know that when I'm feeling elevated, when I feel, confident, when I feel joy, I mean, I do notice it now in my posture. My chin is higher, my shoulders are back. Um and it just feels so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just again paying, having that awareness of your thoughts and your physical body. Um, and even just like when it, even, maybe if you're not feeling that great, like maybe if you're having one of those days, we'll just call it. I mean, just again being aware of that, not judging yourself, but just maybe, I'm gonna maybe try to raise the corners of my mouth a little bit more today. I'm just going to, physically, like just gonna I'm gonna smile, because
Yeah.
if I smile, and that's one thing I notice about you actually is like you're always smiling.
I have my moments, my family would tell you, but especially when I'm concentrating, I guess I look
Well,
really angry when
right,
I'm
right. I know.
concentrating.
I know that
Yeah.
that brow, but we got to allow for that to happen too, right? Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah.
I do want to speak very quickly
Mhm,
about coming back to routines and what you said about on days when we're not feeling our best,
mhm,
because we all have these days
mm,
where we may not even want to get up out of the bed. And
mhm,
new mothers especially
mm,
experience this. People coming out of COVID, it's like, what do we do now? Like, how are we supposed
mhm,
to be in this world? There is a lot of angst and depression and days
mhm,
where we're just not feeling up to joy or
mhm,
confidence or all of the bright, happy things in life. And that's okay. We need to make room for that. But
mhm,
on those days, that's where the routines really come in handy.
mhm,
No matter what, every day I make my bed. Every day I
mhm,
brush my teeth. Every day I wash my face. If I don't put on makeup, I put on sunscreen. I comb my hair. So
mhm,
maybe it's not a makeup day. Maybe it's just I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to make
mhm.
my bed. And if that's all I do today, I'll be okay with that.
No, that I think that's a wonderful way to end the podcast is you're 100% right. You know, whether that's making a point of looking in the mirror every single day and saying, you know, I love you, um, you know, you're beautiful, or the mirror work is very important as well. Any affirmations that you might, you know, it's all of that, it's non-negotiable. It's not like you're regimented and, you know, in your routines. These are just little, um, yeah, I say it's non-negotiable. It's not an option not to, you know, honor yourself by doing these routines. It's not, um, what's the word? It's not selfish. It's
No.
it's self-worthiness. You know, it's like it's self-honor that you're
And by giving
practicing.
yourself room and space and grace to emote those more difficult feelings, they
Mhm.
pass on.
Yes,
When we don't make the space for them, we hold on to them, they get stored, and then when they show up, it's a big deal,
it's a
right?
big deal.
And then
Yeah,
it's a lot of work to do. So
yeah.
if you feel sad today, let yourself feel sad. If you
Mm-hmm.
feel joyful, be with the joy.
Mm-hmm.
All of our emotions are impermanent, and I think the more difficult emotions we tend to not normalize. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't feel sad, we shouldn't feel angry, we shouldn't feel this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the angst of that gets stuck inside of us.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. No thought is good nor bad. It just is, and allow it to pass.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. Well, why don't you just quickly tell our listeners, it'll be all linked up in the show notes, but uh how they can find you.
Yes, so I am on my website at peacefulliving.com, and
Mm-hmm.
peaceful, it has two L's, then living. I'm also on Instagram, Roberta underscore peacefulliving.com, and I am on LinkedIn as well, Roberta Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am always willing and excited to talk to people about their goals and desires to bring more peaceful moments into their life. You can schedule a call with me at no charge to do that. And I would love to offer your listeners 30% off of any of the services that I offer
Oh,
for them
wow.
to get a good beginning to bringing peaceful moments into their lives.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
would love to create a plan for you and have you try it out and see.
I will follow up with you on that absolutely, because I mean, yeah, when you came across my radar as, you know, someone to interview, I thought things happen for a reason. You know?
Like, I need this.
Yeah, I need this. Yeah, yeah,
We
perfect.
all need someone to be an inspiration and a teacher. There's always one
Mhm.
person a little bit ahead of you on the path that can give you just that missing seed.
Absolutely. I'm all about mentors, teachers, coaches. Yeah, there's always a way of moving up. Yeah,
Yeah,
elevating. Okay, well, thanks so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And for everyone else, I'll see you next week.
it was a joy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.